Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Nerdy Up North Ice and Fire podcast, a podcast dedicated to George R.R. Martin's world of ice and fire. I am Sam number 1.
And I am Sam number 2.
And she did it again. 2 episodes in a row where she cracks the opening. Get in.
I think it takes a little bit away from it if you have to confirm that, I've just nailed that.
I'm just so excited. Hi, everyone. Hi, Sam. How you doing?
Oh, yeah. If everyone watches on this is late at night for us as well. We're like an hour and a half behind how we usually start.
Very true.
We are tired.
But we were hungry, so we wanted
so
food.
Hungry, so we wanted for food. Both our deliveries were late.
But we are here, and this week the Wheel of Destiny chose, was it Aegon the Conqueror or Aegon's Conquest?
More so I think around Aegon's Conquest itself, because I think it's such an integral part of what we just have in general.
Well, it's probably the most interesting part of him. So
yeah.
You take that conquest away, like he's just a dude with two sister wives.
He's just Aegon Targaryen, his sisters. So, yeah.
Not just one.
Not just one. Yeah, exactly. 2. One he did out of duty in the Targaryen tradition. The second one he did because he actually fully loved her.
He did.
Kind of cute, but sister.
But do you know what? When you look at this starting point of the Targaryens, because this is really where the Targaryens take over.
Yeah.
And if you look at these 3 as a starting point, these 3 really dictate the rest of the Targaryen household and how it goes forward.
They also sort of dictate the way that the conquest happens before we get to the intro. But just before all that, it dictates almost how we know all of the other houses as well.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That is true. Well,
conquest.
I will do the disclaimer, as I do every week, and we will crack on. So, everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the Facebook group where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism.
Keep it far away.
Yeah, get out. Get out. Right, Aegon.
I mean, it's referred to a lot of times in the show about Aegon's Conquest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Tywin Lannister talks to Arya about it at Harrenhal, obviously, which is Harrenhal as a result of Aegon's Conquest as well.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it starts 100 years before that. It starts with Daenys the Dreamer. That's really where his conquest starts, nearly 100 years before he's even born.
This is the idea, isn't it? This is the seed that is planted. Yeah,
big time. With Daenys the Dreamer, she was a big time dragon dreamer, as is, we spoke about before. It's a Targaryen curse as such, in loose quotation marks for some of them. But she dreams of the doom of Valyria. And her father, Aenor, he kind of believes her and he trusts in her dragon dream. So presumably dragon dreams have been quite prophetic for a long time before Daenys as well. And Aenor just up and sails and decides to go, sells all of his land, sells absolutely everything, takes the Targaryens to Dragonstone. And at this time as well, Westeros, as we know it, was 7 kingdoms with 7 different kings. And Dragonstone was actually the far western point of the Valyrian Empire. Just at right at the very tippity edge of the narrow sea. Tippity edge. That's not how it's tippity top, never a tippity edge. But it happened. And at this point, obviously, they settle on Dragonstone. This point, it's not really known what dragons they have other than Balerion, because we know that Balerion was the last living thing before he died to see Valyria before the Doom. So Balerion is the only dragon that we know of that went with them, as far as my research went. Could have missed some of it. But there is also obviously some of the houses that do take Valyrian descent, and it's there where we also see House Valyrian as they were, because they obviously are on Driftmark, which is very close to Dragonstone itself as well, and still, like as I said, part of the Valyrian Empire. But they don't do anything, the Targaryens. They do nothing. They just don't chill there. But then the doom happens. So obviously Aenor was right to move his family away, because now the Targaryens are pretty much the most powerful Valyrian descent family left, because all of the other 17 or 18 houses that there were in Valyria are all dead now. All the dragons are dead. Everything is
am I right in believing the Targaryen household in Valyria wasn't actually that powerful?
Yeah, no, they weren't.
They were just kind of like lowborn.
They were just not necessarily lowborn. They were more so just another family. They were one of the more powerful families. But as far as powerful goes, there was way more powerful families.
Yeah,
I don't know the names of them. We could explore that another time, but there's probably not going to be much known anyway, just because it's more of a sort of backstory and everything like that. So there's not going to be not much to go at anyway. But yeah, not really a high class family at all. But now they're kind of one of the last. Again with House Velaryon. There's also one of the closer house allegiances to Targaryen in House Celtigar. Don't quite know if House Celtigar are of Valyrian descent or not. Don't remember, but they're alleged to.
I've actually been I was doing some reading YouTube, and I heard that we could see some form of that house. I can't see it. I'm so sorry. Celtigar. That we may see them in House of the Dragon 2. That possible?
I mean, this is the sort of thing, is that the Velaryons as well were very much a case of still existing at the time of Game of Thrones. A Velaryon was master of ships to Aerys II, the Mad King. So they were still a very important, powerful family. It's just that with Robert's Rebellion, things obviously changed, and they weren't as wanted or anything like that, and probably scuttled off back to Driftmark and did other things the other side.
Isn't that such a shame? Just because we know how fucking cool they actually are from House of the Dragon.
I mean, Daemon's a dick.
Oh,
obviously he loves his family, but he's a dick. Especially when he talks to Viserys, but obviously Viserys puts him in his place, which I fucking love that episode. I love that episode so much.
Is that the brother, or is that the main guy who married his?
No, Corlys Velaryon.
Corlys, that's it. Corlys.
He's married to
Rhaenyra. No, that's the daughter. Rhaenys. Wow, the Targaryens really do not help with the name pronunciation. I think it's Rhaenys. I am so sorry. I think it's Rhaenys. So sorry if we're getting this wrong.
Yeah, I mean, coincidentally, Rhaenys obviously is also one of the names of Aegon's sisters.
Yes, along with
younger sister Visenya.
Visenya. Now that Visenya was the one he married out of obligation.
Yes, that was as is tradition. So obviously, at this point, Aegon's born. He's now the rider of Balerion the Black Dread. There's a couple more dragons knocking about. You've got Vhagar, you've got Meraxes, and there's probably some more. Probably some that we'll see in House of the Dragon, because the Cannibal Dragon, was he born after Aegon's Conquest? Was he born way before Aegon's Conquest? Nobody knows. But so obviously, Aegon's born. Visenya's obviously already there. Rhaenys comes on a little bit later, but out of tradition, as per the Targaryen household, and I think it's more of a Valyrian tradition as well, Aegon marries Visenya. And then, because he was madly in love with his younger sister, married her as well. Why not?
Fuck it.
2 wives.
Fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. Why not?
I'm going to have 2 sister wives.
Yep, exactly. Threesomes galore. Is what it is.
It absolutely not, because the fucking sisters hated each other, but yes.
That's what they did. It happened.
Do you know, for all the sisters, from what I've read, the sisters did not particularly like each other, but they had a very strong understanding. They knew their place.
Yeah, they knew that their place, but also I think they knew kind of obviously everything that was going on. They understood each other and the strengths that each of them had. Obviously, Visenya was more kind of, she was probably a bit upset as well, to be honest, that Aegon decided, no, fuck it, I actually love my niece. You're just there because I had to.
Yeah, she's just
I'd
a very.
be a little upset.
She apparently she's the muscle, and the other sister was the beauty.
Also used to wield Dark Sister.
The
Valyrian sword that we see Daemon wielding in House of the Dragon.
That man.
Absolutely incredible name for a sword as well, though. By the way.
Yes.
Dark Sister.
Better than what bloody Joffrey came up with. Bloody Widow's Wheel.
Saying that though, that's not actually that bad of a name. Widow's Whale. He does. He names it on purpose, but Widow's Whale, that's still quite a cool name because sword chopping down men.
He's still an arsehole.
Cry. Oh yeah, of course he's an arsehole, but Widow's Whale's a pretty good name. Can't lie, pretty good. But as we go further into the sort of the real start of the conquest, we've had the sort of back bit. There's not really too much known. It's kind of the Targaryens just kind of chill there. They don't really give two shits about Westeros. They still go and visit. They fly over Westeros on the dragons, Aegon on Balerion, Visenya on Vhagar, and Rhaenys on Meraxes. And they fly and fly and fly around. Obviously, they make some friends and stuff like that. Blah blah. Lords host them, etc. etc. However, there was how this really starts was not actually down to Aegon himself. He just reacted. It was down to Argalic Durrandon. However you pronounce it.
Oh, it's going to bug us, but yeah, I know who you mean.
Argalic Durrandon. I'm going to say Durrandon. He was at the time one of the kings in Westeros. He ruled over the Stormlands, the historic seat of the Baratheons. Now he used to, the Stormlands used to rule over the vast majority of Westeros, but their power had obviously diminished. And to try and gain something a bit back, he was like, that guy's got dragons and shit, isn't he? So he sent a messenger to Aegon and offered his daughter and a load of lands from the God's Eye down to somewhere. He didn't really have those lands in his possession, but he still obviously had his daughter's hand. Aegon, obviously already having two wives and thinking, she's not my sister, so she's not right for me.
She's not my sister.
I can't do that.
She's not related.
Yeah, completely the opposite. I can't do that. You're not my sister.
Oh my god.
But he suggested that Argalic marry his daughter to Aegon's supposed bastard brother, Orys Baratheon,
who was Aegon's buddy,
best friend,
chum,
buddy, all sorts of things. But this
very much convinced that they were brothers.
Yes, Orys was supposed to be the bastard brother of Aegon, but it's never really confirmed. But it could be. It could be. And basically, that caused a lot of outrage because Argalac cut off the hands of Aegon's messenger, sent them back to Aegon, and said, "That is the only hand you'll get from me." And Aegon's like, "Whoa. Big fucking mistake. That ain't gonna slide, is it?" So Aegon starts calling his manners. He's like, someone's going. Bear in mind that the Targaryens at this point have had nothing to really do with Westeros at all. None of the kings did. They were just there on Dragonstone, just chilling, doing their own thing, dragon riding, sister riding, all sorts of stuff. And then I was wondering when you were going to catch on to what I said.
I heard what you said. Sister riding. Oh my god, the Targaryens make these jokes far too easy.
Far too easy. obviously they call it, Aegon calls banners. He obviously gets House Velaryon with
Hmm.
their many ships, Masters of Driftmark, well, Lords of Driftmark. The Celtigars as well, as were powerful allies, and also a couple of other houses. I can't remember the names of them, but they were actually sworn to the Stormlands, but had closer relations to Targaryens. So they
Hmm.
actually joined Aegon's cause immediately. And after calling these banners, he thousands of ravens flew from Dragonstone. No idea where he got all the ravens from, but thousands of ravens flew from Dragonstone to basically spread the word that I am the king of the Seven Kingdoms. I am king of Westeros. If you bend the knee, retain all of your titles and lands. But if you oppose me, basically I will destroy you. If you resist me, I will end you entirely.
And he did meet a few resistance. The Starks being one of them. And the
Starks didn't
Dornish,
resist.
they did in the book. They said that they had some reservations.
Of course, they were
But
going to have reservations. That was more so, I think, towards because they called their king at the time. I don't know what the name was of the king. Actually.
Something
Torrhen?
Stark.
Was it Torrhen Stark?
I'm thinking something with a T, and I was thinking
Torrhen.
Tommen.
Yeah. No, it's Torren, I think.
Torren. Oh,
But
names,
they
man.
called him the king who knelt.
The king that
Because
knelt.
because the reason why he did that though was from basically what happened during Aegon's big conquest, effectively. Because as soon as he sent all those ravens off, he decided, right, fuck it, I'm going to the mainland. He created the Aegon Fort.
Mm-hmm.
Stupidest fucking name. George R. R. Martin should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm pretty sure that's what became King's Landing.
Yes, I'm pretty positive. Do you know the terrifying part of all of this? I've actually read the opening part of Fire and Blood, all about the conquest, up until the point of after the conquest. And I can't remember jack shit because it's so fucking detailed. Like, ridiculously detailed, which is brilliant for someone who has that kind of reading aptitude where they could be like, oh, I'm so soaked into this, but I'm like, no, just give me what's happening. Like,
Yeah. But that's what we're here for, so you guys don't have to read and watch it.
Like he walks into King's Landing, he fucking rules. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need
literally that's what Aegon literally did, because he went to the mainland and was like, fuck it, here's a good place.
mine.
Built the Aegon Fort. And then straight after that, sent Rhaenys and Visenya out northish, not very far north from where what we know as King's Landing, to take a couple of castles. They did it with relative ease. Some tried to resist. Vhagar was like, but I can spit fire. And they were like,
He didn't like to
yours.
really use his dragon fire a lot. He kind of
No,
held back,
and
and I realized that because Dawn really put up a fight.
well, this is the thing. This is what who put up a fight.
Dawn, the Dornish.
Yes, this is something not necessarily seen for the Dornish part. That was a different part, I think, of the Congress. But as far as the fighting goes, it's very apparent that he didn't want to use the dragons as much, because after that, after a couple of castles were taken, someone, I can't remember the house, House Mooton maybe, sent down some 3,000 strong army to try and tackle him. They were swiftly defeated. And sort of after he starts capturing a few more castles, like in the local area, he also takes the Riverlands as well. And he then decides to set up his court. You've got Daemon Valerian as the master of ships. You've got Tristan Massey as the master of law. You've got this is the stupidest name ever, Crispian. That is with a P, not a T. Crispian Celtigar as the master of coin. And then he names Oris Baratheon, who is also pretty much head of his armies, as main commander almost, as the Hand as well. And that's also where the Targaryens' famed three-headed red dragon their sigil was born.
Yes, because before that it was the black, wasn't it? The black,
Something like that, yeah.
It was more black than it was red, and the dragons weren't there. It was something like that.
But now, because of the three-headed dragon being Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya, they wouldn't obviously have needed that previously, and it'd be a bit weird to have had it previously having a three-headed dragon, but now with the
it would have been
conquest,
a lot of foreshadowing.
A lot of foreshadowing, massively. But now, he's captured quite a few castles. He's got his army together. He's got 3 dragons. He has, well, comparatively little to the rest of them, but he's got his court as well. He's setting up to be, I am going to take over everything. He's determined. And after he was coronated by one of his sisters with a Valyrian steel crown, 3 different armies went 3 different ways to basically start the rest of the conquest, really, after he got himself a little foothold. He sent his fleet off to Ghoultown and the Vale, accompanied by Visenya on Vhagar. He went north to Harrenhal.
Yeah, I remember reading about Harrenhal.
But then he then sent off Orys and Rhaenys to Storm's End as well. Now, don't really know too much about the fleet going to Ghoultown and the Vale, but we all know what happened at Harrenhal. We've seen Harrenhal in both the shows, and it is wrecked. And the first time we see it, we're told immediately why that is. Dragonfire. Dragon
fucking fire. Because I remember reading this in the book and I was like, fuck, yes, even though I knew. But it still doesn't register in your brain. You're still like, fuck yes, burnt that bitch. Absolutely burnt.
What was the house called? Because his first name was Harren. Was it Black?
Oh,
House Black.
I think so, because they're not a house anymore, are they? The whole
completely extinct house. I mean, the family that took over are also extinct.
Okay, I hate my computer. Sorry, Harrenhal Castle. Oh my gosh. Tower of Dread. Oh, what a name. It was what? So
I don't even know now. I'm more determined to find out what the
latest
fuck this was.
It's telling us all about Tywin. Tywin was not when Harren. It doesn't actually tell you his surname. It just says Harren.
It's a House Hor.
Hor, yes, rendering House Hor. Harren Hor.
But he called it Harrenhal instead.
Huh?
House Hor of Harrenhal. What was big old George doing when he was naming this shit?
He was having fun with that one. He was having fun. Harrenhal. Black would have been cool as fuck, but no.
No idea, but I mean, their sigil is cool as fuck.
Oh, yeah, but they're really fucked up people. He deserved what he got.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he built a massive, hall. Tallest castle, biggest castle in Westeros by a country mile at this point, and probably still is, even half burnt down. And he was so fucking cocky and just refusing to the king. He was like, no, I'll just hide away in my castle. Good luck, twat. And Aegon was like, oh, well, it'd be a shame if this all burnt down.
Gonna have to pull the dragon fire out now.
And this is also where the curse of Harrenhal started as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, this is why I want an Aegon's Conquest TV show so fucking bad, because it don't need to be a fucking season. It doesn't need to be more than that. It needs to be a season, 10 episodes of just pure fucking brilliance. We've seen now from House of the Dragon that they can do dragons on a big scale consistently.
Yeah, and a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them as well. And the biggest castle at the time just being fucking ruined. Obviously, we get to see Valyrian the Black Drake because it is a fucking joke that we've not even seen him in a flashback yet.
No.
But just watching him being burnt to the ground, and just how Aegon was again just true to his word. You know, if you don't bend the knee, I will end you.
I will fucking get you. And he does. And he does. But even though in the TV show, in Game of Thrones, that it doesn't, I don't get the scope or the damage that when looking back after reading it, what I was like, oh, that's not as damaged as I thought. Because I was expecting like it should have looked like charred walls and but
you see
when you go back to season 2,
you kind of get it a little bit, especially when Arya's there, because you see more in particular how just open it is. Like there's no fucking ceilings or anything, and there's only few rooms that are still. I don't know why the fuck anyone even steals. I mean, yes, I know Harrenhal was a very strategic point in the map of Westeros, but why the fuck would you go? There's like 4 rooms that you can probably fucking use properly. The rest of it's just half there. You know, half a courtyard, half of everything. I don't think the scale was shown. Well, the scale wasn't ever really shown properly. It was a little bit when they get to Harrenhal after being captured originally, because you see it from the outside, and that's when they say, "Oh, melted by dragon." Like they're saying, like, what could do this? And Arya says, "Dragonfire." You know, and you see a little bit of the sort of grandeur of it. But House of the Dragon, not as much. Again, we only got to see it very briefly though, when again another house was completely fucking ended in fire. Well, not completely ended, because there's still one limp twat going in House of the Dragon. God, I can't stand him. He is.
Which one?
What's his bloody name now?
I don't know who you're talking about.
Anything. There's Strongs. Obviously, because 2 of the Strong spoilers for House of the Dragon is 2 of the Strongs die. But no, there's still one Strong left, isn't there? He's the one with the gimp leg. He limps.
Oh my god, yes, the one with the toe fetish, the foot fetish. Oh, yes.
Bearing in mind, I didn't even realise, because I've just rewatched House of the Dragon actually as well.
Oh, well done. So good.
Loved it better the second time around, I think. But I noticed as well that he actually does start touching himself in one of the scenes.
Yeah, he's got a proper foot fetish, and the fact that bloody Alicent gives into it just because of his counsel. Like, no, dirty bitch.
Don't get me wrong, because Alicent is a very, very attractive woman.
She's also a twat.
A little bit.
I really don't like her.
She's very up. From rewatching it again, she's very, very up and down, because you've got to remember as well that she's with a husband who is actually, to be fair, looking at the ages of what the characters should be, he's not actually. He's like 14, 15 years older than her, and that's it.
Oh yeah, it's so wrong.
But no, not massively. Considering Damon's up there touching his underage niece, and
that scene just really no. Yeah, no. But when you see them later on, it's like and having like the traditional Targaryen wedding, you're like, totally, fuck yeah, this works. Like,
yes. Get right behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. But
Viserys marrying a 17-year-old is apparently too far out of everybody else's scope.
It's just because it's her. Could have been anyone.
She was a pawn and didn't realise it, and she's married a man obviously different, and obviously he gets sick quite quickly.
Really quickly.
I say really quickly. There's still like a good 10, 15 years.
But the signs are there pretty quickly, and all because of Aegon's chair, from what I believe.
I mean, as far as the character background goes, there is more to it. Because he's supposed to have I'm pretty sure Paddy Considine confirmed that Viserys has leprosy in the show.
Well, that you can, if you're not getting that from the way that he looks, then okay. But he definitely
doctorates.
He definitely looked like he had some form of leprosy. But the reason we bring House of the Dragon into Aegon's Conquest is because there's a lot of reference in House of the Dragon. Like, you've got his crown, you've got his sword.
There is so many things that are linked from House of the Dragon back to Aegon's Conquest. Obviously, the dagger is the main thing. Well, I say the main thing are probably the Targaryens. You've got a dragon that was alive at the time that Aegon was as well, that took part in the conquest in Vhagar. You've got the dagger, Aegon's prophecy.
The prophecy, that's it, not the dream, the prophecy.
2 kids called Aegon in the show as well.
There's a lot of Aegons as time goes
A
on.
lot of Aegons. There's a lot of referencing back to it. I've liked that, to be honest, in the show, because it sheds a little bit more light than what we have almost to a certain degree, because we're seeing Aegon's Conquest is very much a Targaryen. We don't know what sort of full strength what sort of strength they really were, because they weren't bothered by Westeros. They kind of just chilled on Dragonstone. Yes, they had 3 dragons, but they just kind of chilled on Dragonstone. Whereas at the time of Viserys, Targaryens are at the height of their wealth, their power, the amount of dragons they have, everything.
Yeah, the Targaryens in House of the Dragon are very much like, we have fucking dragons, and we are like, these, like, this is what makes us powerful. Even though I don't think Viserys gives that like intention off that the dragons are what makes them powerful.
Doesn't believe that they should be riding the dragons anyway. That's part of the reason why he never took another dragon after riding Valyria. Again, another link back as well, because Aegon's dragon, Valerian the Black Dread, was who Viserys rode. He was his last rider. He only rode him once before Valerian got too big and too old to be able to even fly.
I would love to see the scope of that dragon. Like, what are we looking at?
Even if you see a flashback to Aegon's Conquest, Valerian isn't going to be all that big, because he still lived for like another fucking 100 years.
Because I've heard people mourn, and probably with just reason as well, especially being book readers and like really in-depth book readers, the size of the skull.
This is my fucking problem as well.
I know, I remember you saying
enough.
But you're not the only person who I've heard recently talking about the size of the skull, because that should be so much bigger.
Bearing in mind that Balerion was pretty much the oldest living dragon. Well, oldest dragon that we know of, because there's a chance that the cannibal dragon could be older. We might find out.
I have not heard of this cannibal dragon. Now that just freaks me out.
Have to go a little bit, right, forget Aegon's Conquest for a moment. We're going to talk about the cannibal dragon, because it's one of the most interesting dragons. Anyway, so when Daemon in House of Dragon is talking about the 3 wild dragons, they are Sheep Stealer.
Wow.
Silverwing, maybe? No, I think Silverwing was someone else's dragon. But then you've also got the cannibal dragon, who eats the dragons. Now, it's not properly confirmed. There's a lot of speculation of whether or not the cannibal dragon existed on Dragonstone before the Targaryens even got there, which would mean that at the time of the House of the Dragon, he's probably about 300 years old.
Right.
If we're going 200 years old by the time of House of the Dragon, which would still surpass how old Balerion was. Because Balerion was 192 or something like that when he died. Cannibal Dragon, again, has never had a rider that anybody's known of, but he could have been born after Aegon's Conquest as one of the second generation dragons on Dragonstone. Nobody really knows. There's not even any sort of like, the fan art is a bit here, there and everywhere. Obviously, we've not seen him in the show at all, but we could, because Daemon does mention the cannibal dragon. Wait, he doesn't mention specifically cannibal, but he does mention Sheep Stealer, and he does mention.
I remember him talking about them, but I can't remember the cannibal dragon, because that would have like really freaked me out. Who the fuck named it the cannibal dragon? How do you get that name?
I mean, they probably just watched him eating a fucking dragon and went cannibal. He's never had as far as we know, he could have had a rider in Old Valyria, and then fucked off, came to Dragonstone, chilled out, and then whatever. Because I mean, it's a bit iffy, because if he was alive before the conquest, why wasn't he ever mentioned anywhere? But again, it's not confirmed, so it's only really speculation. Cool speculation, because we know for a fact that wild dragons grow way bigger. We look at Drogon in the show, way bigger
than his 2 brothers, who are probably the most like color-wise, apart from Daemon's dragon. Holy shit, the coloring in that dragon was absolutely beautiful.
It's going to get better You do know
Oh,
there's
is
way
it?
more. There's way more beautiful dragons. I mean, we saw Dreamfire. She's meant to be a really pretty dragon. Dreamfire is meant to be the mother of the clutch for Drogon, Viserys, and Rhaegal.
If my
Technically, Daenerys
memory,
dragons are third generation. They're in the same sort of batch as
yeah,
Cyrex.
I remember getting so excited seeing the dragon shadow going across one of Bran's visions, and we were all like, yeah, fuck yeah, big dragons. And then you see the House of the Dragon and it just shits all over.
Shit's all over it. Drogon is meant to be the Valerion the Black Dread almost reborn. That's what he's meant to be. But even Drogon is nowhere near as big as Balerion the Black Dread. Nowhere fucking near.
Not from what I've read. But if I'm right, are we getting 14 to 16 dragons in House of the Dragon in total?
Something like that, maybe 18, but it's going to be, it's a lot. We've already seen about 8 or 9, I think, because obviously we've got all the young dragons as well. We've seen a few of them. We also obviously got, like I say, a glimpse of Dreamfire as well. Very briefly, obviously we've seen Sea Smoke, who doesn't have a rider anymore. There are a few dragons that we've seen. Obviously, one's already dead.
Oh god. Fucking God.
Chomped the fuck up. Also about size, we see how big Vhagar is. Vhagar at this size, they say that she might be the same sort of size as Balerion. So that just shows how fucking big Balerion was, because even now Vhagar is the oldest living dragon. She's, by the time of the show, like 100 plus, 130, 140, because Caraxes is about 90 or something. I don't know.
Caraxes is not Rhaenyra's,
Daemon's. The bloodworm.
The bloodworm. The first time I saw that dragon, and it was walking more than flying, and out, like, you know, it was like crawling down. And I was like, my God, look at the fucking size of that neck. That should not work aesthetically as a dragon. But then when you see it moving about, he is fucking beautiful.
He's actually a deformed, because there's different types of dragons, and some of them do. That's why Daenerys' dragons look the way they do, because they look more like the third generation dragons, because they are third generation dragons. That's more than likely where those eggs came from originally and ended up in Daenerys' hands for that. But yeah, Caraxes is a deformed dragon because his screech is also different because of his deformity in his neck. His neck shouldn't be that long, his head shouldn't be that small. His body, he shouldn't have wings on the back. He's a fucking anomaly. But he's a battle-hardened, pretty much the second biggest dragon. And that's something that the show doesn't do quite well, is they don't tend to show, compared to the other dragons, how big Caraxes actually is.
Yeah, I get that, because I don't see it as a big dragon, more of a long dragon.
No.
So I thought, is it Melee?
Melee's the Red Queen. She's the one that's ridden by Rhaenys.
That scene when she comes up the ground, oh my God.
There's a beast beneath the board, another dragon dream.
It was and you know, when I heard that, and then when it happened, it took about a few minutes, and I went, never heard this. Well, how do I know this?
do you know what's actually really funny as well about Meleys and Caraxes? Daemon rides Caraxes. Caraxes' previous rider was Rhaenys' dad, the eldest son of King Jaehaerys. Rhaenys' dragon, Meleys, was ridden by Viserys and Daemon's mother.
Oh my God.
Basically, the dragons just kind of swapped.
They got
branches of the family.
Incestual riders.
Yeah, I mean
in every form when it comes to the Targaryens.
I mean that obviously that's something that we're going to see anyway, because realistically it's only those of Targaryen blood at the minute who can ride a dragon. What's his name? Velaryon fella.
Velaryon. Chloris.
No, Corlys' son.
Oh God, him. Yeah. I can't remember what his name is. Honestly, he was so insignificant that I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
give a shit.
No, me neither. His younger version, who was riding Sea Smoke, was way better than the older version, because the older version was just a pillock at that point.
Yeah.
But obviously, he was able to ride a dragon and claim a dragon because his mum obviously is a Targaryen. If you don't have Targaryen blood, you ain't riding shit.
Yes, that is very true. Going back to the conquest.
Yeah, there's a good
I
way
just,
there. Sorry, guys.
I know, I don't apologize, because to be honest, House of the Dragon really does link a lot because of all of the connections, which I just wanted to ask actually. The dagger. So we know now from House of the Dragon the prophecy with the dagger, and it becomes more significant, and you're like, holy shit, like looking back on Game of Thrones, did we know about that? Because I'm like thinking, have I missed something?
In Game of Thrones, no, because you've got to kind of remember that we're kind of at the time of House of the Dragon, we are about 170. I think it's 172 years or 179 years before the birth of Daenerys. So when Daenerys is a bit older, we're about 200 years before the time of Game of Thrones.
You were paying attention to the opening scroll, weren't you? Hey.
But because of that, I think the meaning behind it, because obviously of all the turmoil within the Targaryen family anyway, after the Dance of the Dragons, the sort of magic in Westeros started failing at that point, and we have sort of worse kings. We have a couple of all right ones. It gets worse and worse and worse. Then the dragons completely die out, and Aegon's prophecy is almost lost in time because the dagger's not even in the Targaryen family anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Because when we first see it, it's in the hands of Peter Baelish. No.
Yeah.
It's Peter Baelish's dagger, but it's Tyrion who has it, because that's why they accuse the Lannisters of the murder of Bran. But it's Peter Baelish's dagger. Now, I just couldn't remember, because that dagger is so significant to the ending of Game of Thrones, especially with Arya killing the Night King with it. That is fucking huge. And I think if I knew more about the prophecy, I might have...
The ending might have made a bit more sense.
Not that it wouldn't have made any sense, it just would have made it more impactful.
Yes, I 100% agree. And that's probably what obviously they were going for with that anyway. But it's just the fact that, we don't see anything about it. At all. Not even Bran.
Seeing all no one raven that he is. Didn't see that one, did he?
What good's it to a cripple? It's like, what good of fucking you to the show, you useless cunt.
There it is. Fussy word of the night.
Going strong. But no, I'd like to, and this is why another reason why I'd like to see the Conquest is kind of almost Aegon having that dragon dream. And then how does he, because the inscription is on the dagger, and so he must have got someone to have made the dagger.
Yeah, it's got to we just had that time, even if it was just hinted at that was his dagger, there was some form of prophecy, we could have getting it in bits and pieces as it went on. It didn't have to be full on this is the prophecy, but to know that there was one, and the dagger that killed the Night King was that dagger. That fucking means something.
It would have made it more impactful, but it just didn't. And to be fair, it didn't have much impact in the flipping show anyway, because it was it tried to kill Bran, and then it's nothing fucking happens with it until it ends up with Arya, and she kills the Night King, and it's
I've done so much with that though.
Exactly, where's the fucking point in even showing it in that case? There was no almost point in it, because it's a dagger that's 300 years old.
Yeah,
because that's how long the Conquest was.
I always thought that Jon should have been the one who killed the Night King. I still stand by that. I think the fight was between them two, and if he had had that dagger, and if he had killed him,
and then I am Aegon.
Oh my gosh! That would have been fucking unbelievable. I'm not taking anything away from Arya and the whole green eyes, blue eyes. That's something.
That was cool. It was cool.
That was cool as fuck.
That was it.
But if you'd have just put Jon in that position with that dagger, just knowing just a slight bit that's his ancestor's dagger.
He could have, because John's smart, he could have realised, oh, there's some sort of writing on this.
Oh,
What is
prophecy.
it?
Oh, Azor Ahai.
Fucking
Oh, the prince that was
Debbie.
promised. Like, oh, it could have been so, like, they missed
A
such
completely
an
different way. And
opportunity.
yeah, I mean, we should have been employed really to write some bits for it, but
Honestly, we would have done they would have done fucking way better, because them two fucking jackasses can't write for shit. Let's be honest. Let's just call a spade a spade. And I said on the first ever episode, I would only bring it up there and then. I'm going to do it. Break me promise. They can't write.
Some pretty spades.
They can't fucking write. They might as well have been using spades, because they can't write. They missed opportunity. It's not even a small missed opportunity. It was fucking huge. You could have still continued on with the story and just having that just as a thing that happened, but we know it happened. We know that dagger has a prophecy, and John could have still got him fucked off beyond the wall. It still could have worked that way, but no. Had to put fucking Arya
to have the knife that basically belongs to him as a Targaryen king.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he didn't kill the Night King, and he goes beyond the wall, finds out himself, comes back, and he's like, "No, fuck it, I'm Aegon. Here's Aegon's Conquest 2.0."
Bitch.
Yeah.
God, imagine if John just decides to get on. Oh my God, just imagine if John and Ghost go. Oh, did he leave Ghost? He left Ghost, didn't he, dick?
No, he went back to Ghost.
Did he go? Did he get Ghost? Did Ghost go with him?
Ghost was at the Knights, because if you remember that
he left him originally, then he came back and he had like a bit of his ear missing.
Ghost ain't got one of his ears, and they go north to get the wildlings back. But it's like, imagine if he finds like an ice dragon beyond the wall, because ice dragons fucking exist. Give me a fucking ice dragon ridden by fucking Azor Ahai, Aegon the fucking 6th.
Oh my God. The opportunities that they can do with Jon's character. Do you know, and it would have been we've been fine and blissfully going along with the fact that we know deep down Jon's a Targaryen, and we were totally cool with that. We were ready to wait for him to find that information out. I would have been totally willing to wait patiently for him to realize his actual fucking prophecy. Yeah. Not do you know what I mean? We were, it's so frustrating.
Right, before Sammy has an aneurysm, we should probably get back to Aegon the First.
Why we're here.
Great grandchild, or whatever it is. Because I mean, after, like, again, you've been talking a lot about dragons and stuff like that, and they do have a turning point in Aegon's Conquest, obviously. Mm-hmm. But they don't realistically for a while, because Argilac, realizing that shit's gone down at like Harrenhal, and bearing in mind that shit's gone down there, Argilac's like, hang about, I'm not having this. I'm a powerful king. He marches on Oris Baratheon's side of the army. Bearing in mind that Rhaenys is there with Meraxes as well. Meraxes being the second biggest dragon, because Vhagar was actually the smallest out of the three at the time. Even though we know it's Granny.
And what's her face had the smallest one?
Visenya had Vhagar, yeah.
I really find that hard to believe, given how much of a bitch she was. But hey,
I'm pretty sure Vhagar was
probably why she's a bitch. No, it's probably why she's a bitch.
But I mean, well, probably, yeah. Was shafted. So Argilac marches on Oris Baratheon and Meraxes, called the Battle of the Last Storm, which is a fucking sick name.
Massively.
And Argilac is just winning. He's just completely. He's just
bossing it.
Well, he's winning for a start. It's a very close battle, but it's Meraxes that turns it and burns all of them, and Argilac ends up dead. The Storm King ends up dead. But it's Meraxes that turns the tide, and Aegon didn't have a massive army. It was because he had 3 dragons. That's
I
mean, Oris then goes, you know what, Argilac, you just died. I'm having your daughter. Your daughter's my wife now. Which was the original proposal of Aegon, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And thus is born House Baratheon of Storm's End.
And this is why in House of the Dragon, when Rhaenyra really layers it on the allegiance to the Targaryen household with the Baratheons, this is the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit hard for the Storm Kings, to be fair, because at the Dance of the Dragons, it's either side with the Targaryen or side with the Targaryen. There is two choices. So is he really going
Pick your
against the
pick.
Targaryen?
That's true. That's
But,
true. Well, this the the fate of the sisters is really what interested me when I was reading it, and probably what I've retained more information on.
We're missing out one of
Especially,
the best fights. You can't jump to their conclusion.
oh my god, I'm so. Oh, is this the one in Dawn?
Field of Fire.
Is this the one in Dawn?
No.
Okay.
What research have you been doing? This is, listeners, this is 2 weeks in the making, by the way. 2 weeks.
Also, I've had a wedding. I've had a wedding. I've had work.
Can you believe this, people? Can you believe this?
Yes, you can. If you listen to me on a Sunday, yes, you can believe this. This is very me. I can read thousands upon thousands of pages before we get up on here. I will fucking forget every single one of them. There's a reason I get called Dory. I have the worst memory.
You have to introduce yourself as Dory for the next episode.
God, Carolyn, my best friend, calls it all the time. She's an artist, and we were coming back from a trip in Manchester. Was it Manchester or London? London. And on the train back, there's a little girl sitting in front of her, and she starts drawing Dory. And I thought, oh, isn't that cute? And she's like, it's for you. And I still have it. I still have it to this day. She even for Christmas bought us a Dory mug. She understands how bad my memory is. It's terrible.
Never recovered from that incident.
No. So there's a reason I'm called Dory. Like I say, I could read thousands upon thousands, but if it interests us, it sticks in.
I get why Rhaenys's story is very interesting, but you're missing out on one of the biggest extinct families, the kings of the Reach, the Gardeners. Lauren Lannister and Mern Gardner, after they saw everything that happened, decided to combine their forces as two kings, and it laid witness to the biggest army Westeros had seen.
It doesn't surprise me.
We're talking about 32,500 from the Reach, plus several thousand others, and 22,500 Lannisters and a couple of thousand more. So you're at sort of, you're 55 to 60,000 strong army, and they outnumbered the collective Targaryen forces by 5-1.
Wow.
5-1. And it was very much the case that they started just destroying, and it looked like the allegiance were just going to wipe them out. But they were fighting on a field full of wheat and barley that was dry. It hadn't rained in 2 weeks in Westeros in the Reach at this point. And Aegon decided, you know what, it's time. And the three dragons just set everything alight, killed, I can't remember the exact numbers that they killed, but they killed a lot of people. A lot of people. And because the king from House Gardner and his son were there, they both died. So be the king's ends the king's reign. House Gardner wiped out. And this is how we get the Tyrells being Lords Paramount of the Reach, because Aegon instills them, instills Aegon to say it, as the Lord Protectors of the Reach.
Wow, that does actually ring a bell.
Because
I think I remember saying the Tyrells really just they kind of like know where to jump to, don't they? Yeah,
they get very fortunate with certain things, and they are very much family. But again, they were a sworn house to House Gardner. House Gardner were the house of the Reach. They had a massive influence over loads of different areas in the Reach, but they were gone now, and House Tyrell were basically next in line. And that's how they got that.
Their sigil is a rose, so they do come out smelling of roses.
Yeah, they definitely do. But after that, it was sort of seeing everything that happened. The North started to fold, and so did the Starks bent the knee, the Arryns bent the knee, and it was kind of at that point, as we come to at least Rhaenys's story, The fact that Dawn was still there and their house words were uttered countless times to the Targaryens, because every time the Targaryens went there with dragons, they'd go to the cities and find them empty because the Dornish would just hide in the sand dunes.
They were very clever. From what I read, really
stupidly
clever.
Stupidly clever. They were so elusive as well, and they got fed up of. The Targaryens just got fed up with everything. But it was when Rhaenys was sent there, and she spoke to the Queen Martell at that point. I can't remember her name, Maria, I think. And she went, you might be a Targaryen with a dragon, but we are Dornish. We are unbound. We are unbent. We are unbroken.
Now we'll fuck you up.
I'll fuck you up, and fuck you up. They
will
did
literally fuck you up, and my God,
did they?
Poor
Rhaenys and Meraxes.
Yes. We should be pointed out that by this point she had a child with.
She had a child. She had Aenys. She had Aenys, and Visenya had Maegor.
Yeah, I could not pronounce that name while I was reading it. By the way, I just kept calling him.
Maegor is mentioned in House of the Dragon. Maegor is mentioned
he's
at the court, at the small court, when they're talking about Daemon's succession. I think it's Otto that mentions Daemon is potentially just another Maegor or worse, which would be terrible because Maegor was a vile.
He was well. He got it from his mother. He definitely got it from his mother.
As things went on, she got much more bitter and resentful, because obviously they also took the throne from the second king, Targaryen king, his half brother Aenys, obviously is Rhaenyra's child. But poor Rhaenys. This is probably 9 years after the main part of the conquest, where Dawn is still not part of the Seven Kingdoms. They're still like, fuck you,
fuck you.
And out of nowhere, a scorpion bolt strikes straight through Meraxes. Meraxes falls to the earth, crushing Rhaenys underneath. Now, there is some stories that Rhaenys actually survived and she was tortured.
I really hope that's not true, because I had such a connection to her while I was reading it, just because of how sweet she came across in such a place that could really fuck up a person. She kind of kept her sweetness. So my heart broke when I found out that what had happened to her. I really hope that she didn't survive. I really hope that her dragon was what killed her.
But with all these sort of rebellions that were going on from the Dornish, the Targaryens just couldn't do it. Aegon couldn't do anything.
No,
he just couldn't, and this was kind of like a final straw. And it still carried on after that happened, and it wasn't really until I think her name was Daria Martell was sent by King Nymus to Aegon with a letter, and also with Meraxes' skull as
what a bargaining chip.
A gesture to say, here's the skull of your dead dragon. Couldn't find your dead wife, soz. But Aegon then read the letter, was furious, cut his hand on the Iron Throne, supposedly, flew to Dragonstone on Balerion, came straight back, and accepted a peace treaty. The Targaryens had to sign a treaty with the Dornish. Nobody knows what was in that letter. There's speculations, but ever since after that, Aegon went to visit the Dornish 10 years afterwards. Celebrations, and
they had a relationship.
And it was the Dornish that had forced that by just fucking about with the Targaryens massively.
Do you not think he had a slight bit of respect for them?
Probably, but he'd also,
a slight tad, a tad bit of a lot of anger, but a tad bit of respect that after everything he's just managed to conquest, he had to sign a treaty with this one.
Yeah, all because of a letter as well. Again, we don't know what was in the letter or anything like that, but it took about 100 years for the Dornish, before the Dornish actually joined the Seven Kingdoms. 100 years.
How could you bribe the guy who married his two sisters? You have fuck all on him.
Well, not just that though, but also then killed one of the sisters and the dragon. And we're just like, try it again. See fuck it. The Dornish are just the complete standard of fuck about and find out.
really
exactly what they
massively.
are.
And it's such a shame that we never got. I was so looking forward to seeing the Sand Snakes. I've read how badass these women were and how they were fucking shit. I'm sorry, the Sand Snakes were not what I was expecting.
They weren't that good. One of them was incredibly attractive, the one that chats up Bron, but apart from that, there was. They just go around being little fairies about everything and doing a bit of stabby and thinking they're the greatest ever because they're Oberyn's children. And it's like, no, your dad was fucking great. You're just shit.
They needed to eat some humble pie because their dad was incredibly humble from his little showy off antics, which cost him his life. He still was a very humble fighter, and there was a reason people were fucking scared of him and why everyone cheered when he said he would be Tyrion's champion. That's what I was looking for, because he was such a skilled fighter, but he kind of like he kept his cards close to his chest. Like, them lot did not, and I hated that they bested my Jamie.
But they
Bitches.
did. And Bron's one of my favourite. I've just got a signed Jerome Flynn Bron Funko.
I have a funny story about Jerome Flynn.
Oh, do you?
I do. So Sunderland Comic Con. We don't have many, but we had one. But it was in the Stadium of Light. It was a tiny little thing, and Jerome Flynn was a guest. And I was standing at a doorway, and all of a sudden, there's a guy standing right next to us. And I look over, and I'm just going to Carolyn, Jerome Flynn, he's gone for his dinner. And I'm trying to say, Carolyn, it's my friend, it's Jerome. He's like, right here. And he looked at us and I fucking shit.
I proceeded to shit myself.
I was trying to be funny, and he actually looked at us, and I just went, I'm gonna go. And I was like, it's me, mate.
He like reads stuff as well. Yeah, I don't know if it's like for mind or something like that, some sort of like meditation stuff. And he like,
oh my god, I would listen to that voice. I would.
It's really weird, but it was really, really therapeutic, to be honest. Jerome Flynn it just sounds like he just sounds like such a good dude, and Bron's character is an all-time favourite, no matter who you are.
No matter who you are, you're going to love Bron because he's just fucking fantastic. But I always found it hilarious that him and Lena Headey never filmed anything together because they are exes. And in her contract, he was not allowed anywhere near her. So you will never see them two in a scene unless it is being cut to make it look like he is in the room.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one because, it's one of those, I kind of get it and it works. Would have been good to have more Cersei Bron scenes, but
just to have that interaction, because he won't tolerate Jaime and Tyrion. He certainly ain't going to tolerate her.
No, and Cersei is not going to tolerate some random sellsword that she feels is beneath him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're exes is going to be would have been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, but apparently that was in her contract, was for them to not be in a scene together. So I think there's only one where they could potentially be in the same place together, and that is the court when they're in the dragon pit, when they're all together. And I don't know if he leaves. Oh, he does. He leaves with Pod and says we'll leave. Yeah.
There is also another one as well.
Is there?
I don't think so. Do you know when Tyrion is in his little locked up sort of cell and Bronn goes to him and there's Meryn Trant and another dude stood outside the door and they're about to fight and Bronn goes for his knives.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody walks out of the room. I don't know if that's Tyrion that walks out or Cersei that walks out.
If it is, it's probably being cut in because they were never in a scene together.
Essentially, I don't quite remember. But this is the reason why I just want an Aegon's Conquest sort of show, because there are so many good things that can be done with it, and it wouldn't even be a case that we need like really big amounts of story and stuff like that, because it'd just be a case of this is Aegon's Conquest, here's some dragons, here's lots and lots of people fighting, shit burns down, man tries to conquer Dawn. It could have the end of it being Meraxes' death and Rhaenys dying, and then sort of it fades out with, oh yeah, Dawn.
No, they signed a treaty.
The Seven Kingdoms for another century. Shit happens. Blah blah.
House of the Dragon.
Or whatever else they do, because there's still other stories in between that are sort of interesting. Because Balerion almost turns sort of half evil, because he's then ridden by Maegor after Aegon dies.
Yeah, and the whole the whole thing of the Targaryens just backstabbing each other in order to get a throne really starts at that point, because he really goes for, because I think Rhaenyra's child is a sickly child, and he was a sickly adult as well.
Yeah, wasn't the healthiest, and he was also a bit of a nice dude, really.
He was just lovely, but his mother was lovely as well, so that was obviously gonna inherit that. But yeah, this is where the backstabbing of the Targaryens really it's this point right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah, the tradition of just fucking siblings and stuff just carries on, and lots of backstabbing between cousins and all sorts of things. But for the rest of Aegon's reign, at least, he went and visited all of the places in Westeros. It seemed like, apart from certain obviously incursions and stuff, it seemed like he was a good king for the most part. And we've got the whole AC. If you ever see anything related to Game of Thrones that's got AC, stands for After Conquest.
After Conquest. In the book Fire and Blood, which is like this thick, the Conquest is about this big.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the biggest, which is why I'm probably forgetting half of it.
Yeah, it's not, because until Aegon gets to 27 years old is when he starts his conquest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, there's not really much about him, because the Targaryens are just on Dragonstone doing Targaryen stuff.
Just being Targaryens. It would have been so much more interesting if we just had like a more of an understanding of because we understand Robert's rebellion. Like, that's huge. That is massive. And we understand that. But to know the conquest would have been a bit, like, for me, would have been a bit better. And it would have been on par, like, with the rebellion, if that makes sense. Like, conquest, rebellion.
Yes.
Like,
I mean,
do you know what I mean?
The rebellion was probably arguably not as big. Big enough, because it was the first non-Targaryen king since Aegon the First.
And it was a Baratheon.
And it was a Baratheon who is technically still Targaryen, if it's true that Orys was a bastard, because no matter about Robert's grandmother being a Targaryen, his whole family line comes from Targaryen, has been a Targaryen bastard anyway.
Yeah, but then also the fact that you had, regardless of like the bloodline, them two were still besties. Like, they were brothers.
Yeah, exactly. They were still brothers, half brothers or not, or anything like that. But Aegon's conquest is bigger, because before then you had 7 kings, 7 kingdoms, and they would squabble every now and again, take each other's land, and then it'd go backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Aegon was like, right, you want to disrespect me? Fucking big mistake.
Let's see what's going to happen.
Change the way everything was, and leads up exactly, even if they'd done like just something like they did in Lord of the Rings, how they had the War of the Ring. I was there 3,000 years ago. Even though the whole epilogue and fucking everything is so sick, like, I want more obviously on that, because that looks, if they did it properly, that would be so good, so good.
They're never going to do flashbacks, though.
Maybe.
Oh. But they're never going to do flashbacks in House of the Dragon or Game of They only ever did one flashback, and that was the prophecy that obviously yes they did that. Yes they did do the House of Joy, Tower of Joy, but that was more that's not a flashback.
There's not a flashback. No, that's literally Bran going into the past. That's literally
that's been in the here and now, but in Bran's past and present and future and shit. The flashback was the prophecy, as Maggie's prophecy was Cersei as a child. It's the only time you get a flashback going backwards of a character. You are really thinking about this.
Do we not get one of Daenerys and Khal Drogo? I know obviously we get the other one where
we get dreams. There's dreams. There's the dreams that she has with the House of the Undying and the stuff that she sees in there, but it's not a flashback. No, Maggie's prophecy.
No flashbacks of Blackwater Bay with Davos.
Nope. You might see him like kind of like have a glimpse of like what was the fire? What was the fire called?
Wildfire.
That's it. But I'm sure Maggie's prophecy is the only kind of flashback that we get with Cersei being a young child.
Yeah, as far as flashback of main characters is just characters going, it's even just flashbacks. It is.
It is.
And I'm literally going through pretty much every single fucking episode in my head.
I can see. Everyone else can see too. We can see your eyes kind of like moving as they close. Yeah, it's only Maggie's prophecy.
That is surprisingly interesting because in most, obviously, yes, we've got an entire fucking prequel in all fairness, but in most things, especially when it comes to fantasy, you have flashbacks.
Yeah.
Because
look at Lord of the Rings, it starts with a flashback.
Yeah, it starts with storytelling, but it is basically a flashback. But also, you have Elrond's big flashback to the Isildur.
Isildur.
No.
But you also have it's in high fantasy. Like you would expect flashbacks because there's a lot of pieces that
there's a lot of lore, and that's how they set a lot of scenes and a lot of stuff. And the fact that we only have that, and to be fair, it's a fucking half pointless, because even if Cersei just went, oh yeah, some witch once told me blah 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 blah, we go,
well, guess what, it didn't actually fucking come true. So
and it was like, oh, flashback. Well, it technically did.
No, it didn't. No brother killed her. She was told that she would be killed by
Tyrion. Kind of was with Daenerys, and
no, that's not the
loosely,
same.
Loosely,
not the same.
Yeah,
she was told she'd be killed by the Valonqar, which was her younger brother. That was no.
He was part of Daenerys. He was Daenerys' hand.
And no, because he would know if Cersei was going to die, it certainly wouldn't have been with Jaime, and it certainly wouldn't have been the way she went out, because that was very quick. She deserved painful, and she deserved long, and we deserved
I don't even
better.
think she deserved painful. I think she just more deserved a spectacle befitting Cersei Lannister.
Yeah, like something on the lines of Peter Baelish death. I'm still like, it's still always going to be my go-to like favorite death is Peter Baelish's. Even though I do get a couple of people who are in my Game of Thrones group who think I'm fucking ridiculous thinking that.
Why?
They don't think it's a satisfying death.
I mean, the whole build up to the fact that he just had his like neck slice, I think, is a bit But the whole thing of how do you answer Lord Baelish? That is
he was
fantastic.
Scared. He was for the first time you saw Peter Baelish scared.
If he even was Peter Baelish.
He was Peter Baelish, I'm fucking telling you. I'm not having that. I'm not having that experience diminished by someone saying, oh, this wasn't Peter Baelish, it was fucking faceless man.
Peter Baelish is dead.
He's fucking dead.
Dead.
Are we going to wrap up the conquest? Because
I mean, there's not really. This is the sort of thing of the. I think it's good to set the scene. It's never going to be a big sort of thing in it because yes, we're going to talk.
We generally thought it was. I think
you can talk more about battles and stuff like that anyway, and the sort of integral battles that the most integral battles integral.
Even I wasn't saying it right.
I've got no hope when it comes to the Targaryens.
We are fucking terrible. We really are. We need a masterclass.
We do. We need like post-it notes everywhere, and all.
We need a masterclass and broken down.
Massively broken.
Everis. I was so pleased when one of them was called Joffrey.
I know. Yes. Oh yeah. Fuck yes. Yes.
Joffrey Targaryen. I was like, get in.
Strong name for a strong boy. Is very. I don't know. There's two massive fights, wars, whatever you want to call them, as far as the conquest goes, which are, the War of the Last Storm and also the Field of Fire. They're the two major, big, influential ones where things really changed. Obviously, in favour of Aegon, anyway. But they really changed the tides of the bigger war, the conquest. And apart from that, there's only like a lot of little bits and stuff like that anyway. And obviously with Rhaenys dying, that comes like 9 years or so after the rest of the Six Kingdoms are Aegon's.
Yeah.
Obviously Aegon builds up, the Aegon fort into what is King's Landing. No, it's on the site of King's Landing because in King's Landing you've also got Rhaenys. Rhaenys Hill and Visenya's Hill, named after his two sisters. They're two different hills in King's Landing. We do hear about those sort of names. But when it comes to the conquest, I think it is more so just giving a broader knowledge of what happened at the start of it all, really. It was the Targaryen dynasty, that lasted for 300 years.
I think it's good to know the conquest, just to know, even if you don't watch House of the Dragon and you just going off Game of Thrones, it's good to know. It's good to know what Daenerys's ancestors, like why her going to Westeros is so fucking important.
Yeah, massively. I mean, from the start of Game of Thrones as well, you know about the conquest. Even Viserys mentions some of the dragons of the conquest when he's in the bath with what's her face.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the sprinklings of things that happen in Aegon's Conquest all throughout the entirety of Game of Thrones, and you don't, unless you know what Aegon's Conquest properly was and what happened, which is what we basically just said. There wasn't too much more anyway. It's the case that to link it all together almost, because it's not linked in the show realistically at all, apart from Arya's conversation with Tywin, for instance, about the the three dragon stuff. But the rest of it you don't really know. House Gardner, you hear fuck all of House Gardner.
It's true. But a lot of the Tyrells. I find it funny that the succession is from the Gardeners to the Tyrells, and the Tyrells take a rose as their sigil, I think, and they like their gardens.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's a bit weird, obviously, that we see high towers being really powerful and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they come under the vassals of the Reach anyway.
Yeah.
Because we don't really see Tyrells in House of the Dragon. We get a lot of high towers, but houses change. We only see one high tower pretty much in Game of Thrones, and that is Sir Gerald Hightower, who was Arthur Dane's buddy at the Tower of Joy.
That's right. But if you are looking closely, you will see high tower architect all the way through the castle.
And that is what we've just seen in House of the Dragon, because Daemon mentions about how a lot of Targaryen stuff has been taken down in favour of high tower stuff.
And yes, and you still see it, which I thought was brilliant to detail.
Yeah.
Brilliant to detail.
It's very, very key in these shows.
Because you do see it in Game of Thrones. It is plastered everywhere. And then when you start to see subtle little changes and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I remember you.
And that's where, but I think one of the big shows, I'm surprised they didn't do first. It probably is on one of the shelves in HBO to be done anyway, or one of the ones that is being done.
We just don't know at this point. There's too many rumors going around.
There is. Even Snow's not even properly confirmed yet.
What we have to concentrate on is in 2014, season 2 of House of the Dragon is definitely coming.
She means 2024.
That's what I meant. What did I say? 2014?
2014.
Oh my God, we're going back in time.
I mean, that is literally the year after Game of Thrones started.
I am so fucking tired. So
yeah, it is 20 to 11 at this point, guys.
Yeah. So
but that was basically the conquest. And like I said, I think it is important to know it and know your history. But also, again, it's one of my shows that I really, really want to see, because it would just be so nice to have, almost like with House of the Dragon, we've got a start, beginning, and end if we had a conquest in there as well. But it'd just be fucking really good to watch anyway, because it doesn't need a story. It just needs the battles, the dragons, and then that's it. And that's like, bang, that's Aegon's Conquest.
It would be just cool as fuck to get a little bit of a history lesson into your knowledge of Game of Thrones. A visual history lesson, because let's be honest, we all can't read the books because we either can't be asked or we just can't.
Said you've read all of them, you're a fucking liar.
I know there's people out there who has, so I'm just gonna keep that reverse. So let's just thank Sam too for all of his homework tonight, because he really carried this episode for us.
I just like talking.
You just like learning and knowing.
I've said this to you before, like when we've started and stuff like that, and I've said it to a couple of friends and people watching. I just seem to light up when I'm doing my
You
research,
do.
because it's just I don't. It's
No,
just I don't like learning in general. I do a law degree. I can't fucking stand it. I'm 4 years deep in a part-time law degree. I've written probably 6 pages of notes in my. I've written more case cards for this podcast than I have my law degree.
he's not even exaggerating. Now, I don't see you researching, but I see you reading them. So I know how much that you are enjoying the research. I'm just enjoying the ride. Like,
Oh, so what this? I mean, it's nice because obviously this is what makes us work with the podcast so well. Is that I'm very much a case of case cards and stuff, and then we just bounce off whatever's going on in your head
in
compared
my
to
head,
the case.
we
Exactly.
fuck knows where we're gonna go. We could go all over the place
Fuck knows what
in this
names are
brain.
coming out. Anything.
Exactly. Well, so thank you everyone for
Spun the
watching.
wheel yet?
What? Oh my god, the wheel! What is wrong with me? Get on that wheel of
We need to
destiny.
do stuff. I think earlier. This was a
Yeah.
late one. We're not usually this.
It's only because we would have been here at 8 o'clock, but we were waiting for food. I'm gonna be honest, I was starving.
Oh, we've got our first secondary wheel.
Oh,
Now, when I was creating this hasn't popped up yet to anybody that's listening. Basically, I went a bit mad with power when Sammy was just like, "Oh, you want to? Yeah, the wheel. Fuck yeah!" And I've just been adding like non-stop shit to the wheel, absolutely non-stop shit. And basically, I created this whole like system in my head of where we could go with the wheel, and we can have like a secondary wheel for shit. Not thinking of the
yeah.
practicality of it in the fucking slightest, because it is a lot more extra work that do I know if I've even got realistically the time for it to make sure it all works.
What the fuck is it?
I'm getting there because I'm also trying to save time by typing in another wheel. Basically, it's a character art wheel.
Oh.
So we are going to be just spinning the wheel again
Mm-hmm.
to find out
Which
whose character art we're going to be looking at next episode. Get in there, so I can't make the wheel go faster.
sick wheel.
It's a brilliant one to start off with, considering who we've just been talking about. We're going to be looking at Daenerys.
Okay.
A long, big character arc that goes here, there, and fucking everywhere.
Well, here, there, and she eventually gets there.
She eventually gets there. Eventually
there,
fucking
to
gets
there. Fuck's sake. But wow, no, honestly, like, we can say what we want about Daenerys. She's still a very strong character. Her arc is incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
I feel like I will be prepared for this one because I know this one. So
It's
yeah,
a start to one start as a start to finish character as well.
she is very much so. And also, we can also talk about the theories when it comes to Daenerys, because there's some theories about afterwards. So we can have a discussion about that too.
I might leave those theories to you. I'm interested to see what you come up with.
With that interesting. Fucking hell, you've seen the other ones before. They weren't that interesting.
They were. You're doing yourself a disjustice.
We will find out. So, as I was saying before, thank you everyone for joining us, whether you be on YouTube or Patreon. If you are on YouTube and seeing this and you want to get exclusive episodes before anybody else, £2 a month. £2 a month, join Patreon for exclusive content, not just for the series. We're going to be doing more different ones. There's going to be other people doing other different series for Patreon, I think. But there's also other goodies to go along with it. Remember the live show. The live show is on a Sunday at 7:30 apart from this Sunday. We are not actually live this Sunday.
2nd of April for everybody.
Yes, 2nd of April. We are live on the 3rd of April for the Red Dwarf episodes because it is my partner in crime's wedding anniversary. So we will not be going live on Sunday, but we will be going live on Monday, the 3rd. We are talking to SunnyCon tomorrow, which is the 31st of March. Just putting dates in now. Also, we have Michaels. Wow. We have Captain Goodwill and Lieutenant Graham.
It's not Admiral Goodman. Is he not
Admiral
promoted
Graham.
himself to
Admiral Graham. I am not a Trekkie.
I'm surprised if he's only given himself the epithet of captain.
No,
that's surprising. If he's highest.
I think it's Captain Goodwill and Admiral Graham. I think, but please, these guys are doing such an amazing job with their Star Trek episodes. Goodwill is just fantastic. Oh my god, go and check out Goodwill's podcast. It's great. If you're a Trekkie, you're gonna love it. Go and check out Goodwill playing Twitch, or like his video games on Twitch. I go on and I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday he plays. You will be able to see it on Facebook, his listings of when he's up. But fuck me, it is some of the funniest gameplay I have ever seen. Goodwill, he is an absolute crackerjack, and
he's a good crack.
He really is. He's so funny. I can't wait to be running up hills with him at Nerdfest. It's going to be so much fun. Always thank you to Lee for always with your kind comments, whether it be on the Patreon comments, the YouTube ones, or even in the live chat on a Sunday. Very much appreciate you, Lee.
I've got a job for you, Lee, as well.
Oh, Lee.
What a job. We're going to get you on as some sort of special guest. There's something on the wheel that's calling out for you to be our guest.
Lee, will you do it? We've tried many times to get you on the Sunday.
We'll even forego the wheel and just automatically pick just to get you on.
If you want to, Lee, reach out, because I know that you watch these. I know that you listen. So reach out. So yes, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch. We are all on them as Nerdy Up North. If you are just solely interested in Game of Thrones, I have a Game of Thrones Facebook group. I believe it's called Game of Thrones Ice of Fire, House of the Dragon. I think it's what it's called.
It's something about Game of Thrones. Basically, it's on there. You might even come from the link that's posted on that group anyway. So if you've come from the group, hello.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us.
Howdy. So yes, thank you everyone for watching, and stay nerdy, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.